Future Shock with your host, Benjamin Dixon. And guess what? You are now plugged into the Power Surge. Now tuned into the Future Shock, Future Shock, Future Shock. Hot takes we debate is the Future Shock, Future Shock, Future Shock. IWC, it's the Future Shock, Future Shock, Future Shock. Get your news here first, it's the Future Shock, Future Shock, Future Shock.
Welcome to the Future Shock. This is the Indie Spotlight, highlighting the best in independent wrestling.
This is referee Dan Fitzgerald, and you are now watching the Future Shock Wrestling Podcast. Get plugged into the Power Surge.
This is Nasty Leroy, aka That Man, aka That Nasty Man. And you are tuned in to the Future Shock Podcast. And you're plugged in to the Power Surge. Now, listen to this podcast and don't be a rat bastard.
This is your boy, the Cardinal Nick Thompson, the current IWA Explosive Division Champion, and you are now watching the Future Shock Wrestling Podcast, and you are now plugged in to the Power Surge. Tweet!
You are now tuned in to the Future Shock. Future Shock, Future Shock, IWC, it's the Future Shock, Future Shock, Future Shock. It's your favorite guy with the glasses, and you are now tuned in to the Future Shock Wrestling Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? It's your friendly neighborhood wrestling content creator and digital media champion, BJ Dixon, and I am here. Another episode of the Indie Spotlight. Listen, you've heard the rumors, you've heard the news all around the world. I had a really cool podcast guest that I was going to bring on. It was none other than the host of Sit Down, Shut Up, and Mark Out, Mr. Blade Daly. He's also the host of Pro Wrestling Forever, and he is the leader of the Sickos Club. And we're going to be here to talk a little bit about his life story and everything that happened in between. And we're going to talk about his wrestling fandom. Let's hear all about it. What's going on, Blade Daly? How you doing today, brother?
Hey, BJ. Hey, I am happy to be on the Future Shock. Future Shock. Happy to be here with you today, man. Doing great.
That's great. Well, let's get started, man, with where did your wrestling fandom start? Because I know a little bit of your story with you growing up in maybe the 80s, I'm thinking. So could you give us a little bit of the backdrop behind that?
Yeah, well, basically, when I was a kid, I kind of knew what wrestling was. And when I remember distinctly being in like kindergarten or something, and there was this kid who had this lunchbox that I really wanted, and it had Andre the Giant on it. And I would get like when you're a kid, you get interested in things for a minute, and then you forget about them because you get interested in something else. And so that happened enough times. And then I remember one time I was at some kid's slumber party, and we just watched wrestling the whole time, and everybody else fell asleep, and I stayed awake. And I just loved it. Like, I really, really loved it. And again, I was really into it, but then I got distracted with other stuff. So there was this one day I had like $3, which back then was a gold mine for a 9-year-old. And I'm at a gas station, Circle K, and I see WWF magazine there. And I'm like, like, I wonder if I should spend this $3 like on this magazine, or if like I should buy like candy like I was gonna do. And I decided to spend it on the magazine, and it was reviewing SummerSlam '89, and I was hooked. I read that magazine cover to cover like a million times. Anything I could find out about wrestling from that point forward was just like amazing. So I found WWF Superstars, which aired in syndication, and I watched that every Saturday. Then I realized there was this other league called NWA/WCW, and pretty much from the wheels came off at that point, man. I was in.
Yeah, so I had a similar experience with reading the Wrestling Observer back in like
Mhm.
2011 or 2012. Can't remember which one it was because I think Punk was on the cover. That's all I
Okay.
remember. Punk was on the cover. Kelly
Mhm.
Kelly was on one of them.
Mhm.
And so like I remember that that was a very different experience. I remember reading the W magazines when they had Randy Cody and Ted DiBiase all on that
Mhm.
one cover. It's crazy. It's wild to think about where they all are now versus
Yeah.
where everything started out for them. So like
Mhm.
to hear that story about like you hearing about you reading the magazine and just it
Mhm.
hooking you, that's pretty cool because a lot of people you don't hear a lot of those stories anymore because a lot of people just say, well, I watched it on TV and that's how I was hooked. But for you
Yeah.
to read a
Yeah.
magazine and to actually be able to read the story and
Mhm.
say, this is different. So what was that story in that magazine that hooked you?
Well, I knew who Hulk Hogan was, and
Mhm.
everybody knew who Hulk Hogan was. I mean, he was
Mhm.
ubiquitous. He was just one of those people that was famous, and he was famous way outside of wrestling at that
Mhm.
point. And so, he was all right. My buddy had a cardboard cutout of him in his room that he won in some kind of raffle or something. And so I always thought that was cool. But I was really interested in the Ultimate Warrior. I grew up watching He-Man, and Thundercats and all that stuff. And the Ultimate Warrior was definitely somebody that played into that same kind of vibe. So I was really interested in him, and I was really interested in the Macho Man. And he was the Macho King at that time.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about the
Yeah.
Macho Man. We
Yeah.
can't it wouldn't be a podcast. We'll talk about Macho Man.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, you got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and Zeus was wrestling at that time too, which was
Debo from Friday, guys. Debo from Friday.
yeah, Debo from Friday. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're ever stupid enough to watch No Holds Barred, it has like a cult quality to it, but it's basically a movie that looks like it was made by people who had no idea how to make a movie. Yeah.
WWE Studios.
It was, it was their first thing that they had ever done. And I don't know how they expected this to launch Hulk Hogan is further into movies, but no, that wasn't the one. If you want to see the best Hulk Hogan movie, it's probably like Suburban Commando. Undertaker cameo in that movie, by the way.
Shout out to Taker. But, okay, John on the ground. Okay, I see you in here, Pippin. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yep.
Make sure to ask Blade about Bill Goldberg and Jim Duggan. Okay.
Oh God.
That question is coming. That question is coming. So
damn you, Pippin.
So with that, and you said like the Macho Man was one of your biggest inspirations. So like, could you talk very quickly about what his character meant to you? I talk a lot about Macho Man on my different platforms, but what did he mean to you as a kid growing up in the era? Because for me, I didn't necessarily grow up in the era, but I loved Macho Man as a character and as the match aficionado that he was with his match with Steamboat and with Flair, even his WCW stuff that I'm particularly fond. I'm very fond of his WCW run, even though a lot of people they'd be like, "Oh, this wasn't good." I'm like, he had some bangers.
He did. No, he did. Him and DDP.
He had some bangers, yeah.
Yeah, those were good matches.
Yes. So So where's that admiration for Macho Man really start for you?
He's like an alien in the sense of like he's just totally different than everyone else. You know, he had the bombastic kind of like over the top vibe, like Hogan say, but he was cooler than Hulk Hogan, and he was obviously a very intelligent guy. Like, you know, like his promos, like I can go watch Macho Man promos all day long. Like he's one of the greatest promos of all time. Like he's just hilarious. He knows that he's very aware of why what he's saying is funny, even when he's making fun of himself. But he was kind of a freak, even by wrestling standards, and that takes some doing. And he just, I don't know. It was just like he was so into being the Macho Man and into being himself and into his own vibe that it kind of made it feel like, yeah, I should be more into myself and more into my own vibe, you know? Like he was an easy guy to like, even when he's a heel, you know? Which he was when I started watching.
So that freedom of self-expression, how did that look like growing up? What did that look like more for you once you saw that? Like, did it like make you be more outspoken about your fandom in school? Like, did it make you, like, when you went out into the adult world, did it also make you a little bit more open to talk about different things that or those weird hobbies that we all have, you know, in the professional wrestling world?
No, I was firmly in the closet wrestling fan for a very long time, and I'll explain something. Like, I'm old, okay? So like it wasn't cool to be a nerd in like 1990. You know what I mean? People just beat you up, and they just say the same stuff a lot of people said. Oh, you know it's fake, right? And it's like, yeah. I mean, yeah. But like nerd culture hadn't taken over the world yet. You know what I mean? Like it was a very different world we were living in at that time. So you felt kind of stupid saying you liked wrestling because you knew it was fake. They knew it was fake. And they saw that as like a total, you know, disqualifier, right? Like the people who didn't get it really hated it. And for me, I just couldn't hate it. I loved it so much. So yeah, then over time you would meet people, like I would meet people and they would make a reference and I was like, are they talking about wrestling right now? Like, do they know anything about wrestling? So I'd make a joke about wrestling that you'd have to like be on the inside to really know. And if they laughed, and then that could start a conversation and you're like, oh yeah, my favorite's Bret Hart or my favorite's, you know, Mr. Perfect or whatever. And then I made some really good friends through wrestling at that point. And then I kind of had a group of friends that we all liked wrestling. And yeah, we didn't hide it. You know, once we had some strength in numbers, we didn't hide it as much. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a very different, well, I grew up in the ruthless aggression era, guys. So like as much as the bully culture was bad in the 90s, it had slowed down, but it was kind of, it was still not as cool to be a wrestling fan, but like,
right.
But it was cool enough to the point where I saw friends of mine. Well, we went to school with people who had to wear uniforms, so I didn't know anything about it. Like the wrestling t-shirt craze did not start happening until much later. Like for me, because I didn't see a whole lot of people wearing Ring of Honor t-shirts or Kevin Steen t-shirts or the earlier Punk t-shirts and stuff like that. Like I didn't see a ton of that until I got into like high school, and I was like, what's the Bullet Club? Like, like this was like my first time hearing anything about the Bullet Club, or people were asking me about, you know who Hiroshi Tanahashi is? I said, who's that guy? And learning about different types of wrestling, so like it made me grow in terms of like, oh, I learned about New Japan for the very first time. I learned about TNA for the very first time. That whole, like my 11th through 12th grade year, I learned the most stuff about outside WWE that I learned, you know, long time. Like, and then plus with and I hate bringing this up, the Punk and Colt Cabana podcast really, really, really drove me to watch other promotions.
It was everywhere. I mean, that interview was
Yeah.
everywhere. I mean, I
Yeah.
listened to it a bunch of times. You
I
know?
listened to both parts, like the Christmas special and the Thanksgiving one.
Mhm.
And when I found out the different things that were going on, I was like, yeah. Even as a teenager, I realized I said, can't morally convince myself to watch this promotion, knowing the things that I know now.
Right.
So it started making me look at things entirely different.
Sure.
So I started watching TNA, New Japan, different things of nature. I just tried my hand at different promotions until I found the one that I liked. And then all of a sudden, 2025 rolls around.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this promotion called All Elite Wrestling. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah. I've heard of it. I've heard of it. Yeah. Yeah. The kids like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was this promotion called All Elite Wrestling that comes around, and a guy named Maxwell Jacob Friedman, you know, he's a great guy, I've heard. But
Yeah, great dude. Great guy. Seems like a
yeah.
real nice person. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what hooked me. So trying my hand at different promotions and then seeing what stuck. And AEW and Ring of Honor were the two things that really stuck for me. So to hear that a lot of people had a similar story, that's pretty cool. So like when did the concept of Japanese wrestling come into your frame of reference? Because I know a lot of people have different stories about being fans of Kobashi and Masawa, you know the King's Road guys. And so what was that really what was your vantage point of all that?
Well, it was really interesting because WCW had working relationship with New Japan. And so they would bring in people from New Japan, and a lot of how I found out about stuff at the time was through Pro Wrestling Illustrated or like that associated group of magazines. You know, at one time they were publishing like 5 wrestling magazines a month. Like there was Inside Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, and I bought all of them. You know, I just like couldn't get enough wrestling. And so sometimes they talk about historical stuff and sometimes they talk about stuff happening elsewhere. I didn't know about newsletters or any of that stuff. Like, so I think a lot of the stuff, like All Japan King's Road, kind of like if you were reading The Observer, like you would hear about that stuff. But I wasn't. So, I mean, I really didn't know that much about All Japan. What I knew was I had seen a picture of Jushin Liger in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And I was like, who the hell is that? Because his mask was cool as hell. I thought he just looked cool. I mean, that was all I knew, was that he looked cool. And it was just a strange thing. It happened where like I just saw a picture. There was no article about him, no nothing. And I just knew he was in New Japan. And then it was at the very end of 1991. WCW had just introduced a light heavyweight title. And it was announced that Jushin Liger was going to wrestle Brian Pillman for that light heavyweight title on Christmas Day at the Omni. And so I'm not kidding. I was determined to figure out any way I could what the result of that. It was a house show. And back then, you know, you didn't have the internet, so you didn't have this immediate access to all this stuff. So I was just like, I couldn't wait to figure out what happened. And he beat Pillman for the light heavyweight title. And then they announced that rematch that they had at Super Brawl 2, and I bought that pay-per-view. I had to see Liger. I had to see him. And that started my fascination with Japanese wrestling. I really liked the Great Muta. He was in the middle of his WCW run when I started watching, and he was just fucking awesome. So
his matches with Sting were sick.
Dude, yes, exactly.
Master classes.
The first WCW match I ever saw was what became WCW Saturday Night. It was just called World Championship Wrestling at the time, but it was the main event was Muta versus Ric Flair. And I'm like, I didn't realize Flair's hair was blonde. I thought it was like gray. And so I'm like, I don't know who the hell this old man is with the like weird perm. But that dude just blew mist in his face. And He is on the mat acting like he's about to die. This is awesome. I love this. What is this? This is not WWF, you know? So yeah, those two were what started it for me. And then I became really infatuated with New Japan, but I wasn't a tape trader. I had no way of watching it. So when
You weren't?
New Japan World
Okay, okay.
came along, like years and years later, 2 decades later, I signed up for it not to watch what was going on at the time, but to go watch that old stuff that I'd always wanted to see as a kid. And it was shortly after that that Kenny Omega and Okada wrestled for the first time. And then you just heard about New Japan all the time.
Yeah, so for me, it was like I heard about New Japan for the very first time. I was sitting in my biology class. I don't know why we were talking about wrestling in our biology class, but that's what slackers do, you know. So
Yeah,
we
definitely.
we literally were sitting in our biology class, and I just heard somebody say, "Hey, have you ever watched a guy by the name of Hiroshi Tanahashi?" I said, "No."
Mhm.
And then they showed me a picture of Hiroshi Tanahashi, and I said, "He looks cool."
He looks cool as hell. Yeah.
Like, I was like, "He looks cool." And then they was like, "There's this guy named, there's this guy named Kenta Kobashi. You should really look up his stuff. He's an older wrestler." I said, "Oh,
He
okay."
sure is.
So I saw this, and I was just like, and then I saw the Kenta Kobashi versus Samoa Joe match. Like, and this is, and now mind you, this was like the late 2010s, and I had never seen a match like that before.
Right.
So I was like, a cross promotional match that they let the wrestler kind of come in and be themselves. Kobashi did not think that he was going to be known when he came to that American stage.
Right.
And when he got the pop that he got, because the Joe and Kobashi match, the Joe and Kobashi match was just a thing of like, Joe was like, yeah, they didn't like, he thought that Kobashi thought that they weren't going to know who he was. So when he got that huge ovation, he said they had shot Kobashi, but I was like everybody loves him.
Oh yeah.
Everybody loves Kenta Kobashi.
He's one of the greats of all time.
Yes.
You know.
Him and Kojima, I don't think they understand how truly loved they are. All because everybody like even for me watching MLW, like seeing how loved Satoshi Kojima is.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yep.
Like the respect and the reverence they both get, it makes me feel really good to see that there's a respect for the legends, basically in the Japanese wrestling culture. That there's a lot of respect for legendary wrestlers, and that's something that I think is lost. And now in today's wrestling culture, and then like we have kind of unfortunately turned our favorite these legendary wrestlers from the past into like, well, these are just grandmas and grandpas that like, you know, just so happen to do the thing that we did years ago. And it shouldn't be that way. You know, you feel what I'm saying? So
no, it shouldn't. And one big reason that, you know, look, there's a million wrestling podcasts, right? Like, it's not like there was a shortage of them when I got started. But I thought that one thing that I could do that was a little different was talk about the history of wrestling for how fucking cool it is. You know, just how fun it is to go back and look at the history of wrestling and learn of the history of wrestling, because that's what got me completely hooked on wrestling. Was like, I'm one of those people where if you tell me a fact that I didn't know, I go, okay, and that when did that start? And then I'm just pulling at the thread over and over and over again. And you know, I mean, I think it's fascinating to watch wrestling from all eras and from all places. And one thing I'll say for wrestling that I think is really cool is it has this built-in thing where if you become like kind of a sicko, right, where you just want to know everything you can, you do end up learning about other cultures. You learn about Japan, you learn about Mexico, you learn about Europe, like in these various different places where they have big wrestling audiences. And it can be really, really like, it can like widen your perspective and like give you a different point of view on the world. And I think people don't fully grasp that who aren't into wrestling or maybe are only into WWE or whatever. But like, yeah, it's cool to like go watch Mexican wrestling. It's great to go watch, CMLL or AAA, whatever you want to watch, go watch New Japan, All Japan, Noah, whatever does it for you, Stardom, or go back and watch All Japan Women's and just realize how freaking great they all were,
Awesome Kong. I mean, Minomi Toyota.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. One of the greatest ever.
Trying to think about Kili Suzuki. Yeah, Bull Nakano, Kili Suzuki. Jumping Bomb Angels.
Yeah. They were.
I went back in the files for that one. I went back in the files for
big
that
time.
one.
Well, and they were so good that they actually were in WWF for a year or two in the late 80s. I mean, they were that good that like, and apparently, the rumor is that they were getting popped so big that they actually started limiting how much they would let them do in matches because they didn't want them upstaging like Hogan and stuff.
Yeah, because this was like, that was during the era where like women's wrestling was not as in vogue as it is today.
No, not in America. No.
Yeah, not in America at least.
Mhm.
I'm always very disheartened. And I hate using the word misogyny, but that's what it is.
That's what it is.
The internalized misogyny a lot of the guys especially had back then that you can't. Well, these women can't upstage me. I'm like, dude, most of these girls are gonna be running circles around y'all.
Yeah,
and that's okay. If you see it as a threat, then you just need to get better. Like
right, or you need to add more to what you're doing to stand out more, and like, and it's completely possible at the same time, and it's interesting because I think you've seen this huge influx of female fans over the last 10 or 15 years in the wrestling audience. And a lot of them really struggle at first because it's so male dominated, the wrestling space, that, a big reason that, when I originally started Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, I started it with my friend Joshi G, was because she's a
Joshi, by the way.
Hell yeah. Huge shout out to Joshi. Her and Joshi J, her husband, had Joshi B a baby. And she hasn't been on the show for a while. So
and you guys, like, I found out about Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out like through my buddy Brett. Brett was a part of the, I think he at one point was a part of the a part of the Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out team. So I remember hearing about you guys, and then that's when I found out about this whole AW podcasting stuff. I did not know there was a whole lot of us walking around.
Well, there was, and I mean that was another thing that wasn't like when we started doing the show. It was kind of like, I think AEW had already hit their low as far as like the fallout from Brawl Out, and then, but they were just barely kind of starting to maybe recover a teensy tiny bit. But that was still back in the day where like YouTube was full of like, oh, AEW screwed this up. AEW, everybody's making content about AEW sucks, and WWE is so great. And so I was like, well, fuck this. Like AEW's amazing. This is like 2023. And yeah. And
go ahead.
To Books. Yeah, huge shout out to Books. Interim host, really, kind of a third host at this point, because Joshi G, we have no idea when she'll come back, but she is a part of the show still and very active with me behind the scenes. We talk every week. She's doing great. And yeah, it's so awesome to have these two badass women that are able to provide me with a totally different perspective, of what it's like being a fan in this era and what it was like being a fan, in Joshi's case, like in eras before, and sometimes why I'll love something and Joshi G will be like, well, I'm a little worried it might turn into this, or it becomes super sexualized because I lived through the Divas era and I don't want it to go back to that, and so it's always very interesting and illuminating for me. I learn a lot.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And since we're talking about shut down, shut up, mark out,
Mhm.
how did that start? Give us like that story of like what
Yeah.
sparked what sparked shut down, mark out, and what also what I know a little bit of the story, but
Mhm.
could you tell the viewing audience here what the story could be?
Sure. Well, yeah. So the show really sprung up because I had left Twitter. I hated Twitter. I hated the culture of Twitter. I hated the vibe of Twitter. When Elon bought it, I'm like, I'm out. Like, I'm done. Like, this enough. And I have only been proven correct for doing that as the years have gone on.
Mhm.
But I heard about Threads, and so I joined Threads. And the very first person that I became friends with on Threads was Joshi G. And, I mean, it was like, just like, hey, how's it going? I love AEW too, kind of thing, And then just one day she started private messaging me, and we realized that we both just liked wrestling a lot. And so I had made a post and just asked people, like, hey, if I did a podcast about kind of AEW and just non WWE wrestling in general, past, present, and future kind of thing, would you guys be interested? And she DM'd me right away and was like, hey, I was like actually going to ask if you would be interested in starting a podcast with me. And I was like, well, that's funny, because I was just about to hit you up and ask you if you wanted to do this podcast with me that I'm talking about. So it was like April of 24, and we taped our first one. It was a review of Double or Nothing, I believe, or no, Dynasty, the first Dynasty show where Swerve won the title from Joe. And
Whose house?
yeah, Swerve's house, baby.
Yeah.
All the time, all the way. Swerve. I've missed that man. I'm so glad he's back.
Yes. I remember getting the call when
Mhm.
Swerve won the title because my best friend, I was outside doing some stuff for my job, and my best friend calls me. He's like, dude, Swerve won. I'm like,
Mhm.
Swerve won the AEW championship? He's
Yep.
like, yeah. He sent me the clip. And I'm like, this was crazy. It
Yeah.
was like, it wasn't the most. It didn't hit me as hard as it hit me when Kofi won.
Mhm.
For somebody who I immensely respect, like Swerve, it was
Oh, yeah.
like, whoa, this
Mhm.
is huge. So to know that you guys start off on that show,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Oh, and I mean, I'm so lucky. I got to see Swerve wrestle a lot before he was even in WWE, because he wrestled in Defy all the time. And so I'd be at those shows. And I remember the first time I saw him, I was like, who the fuck is this? Like, I didn't get why he was the guy everybody thought was like the biggest name in Defy. And then I saw him again like 6 months later, and he was so much better than the first time I saw him. And every time I saw him after that, he always carried himself like more of a star every single time. And so I just had so much respect for him. And got to see Darby before he was as big as he is now, and before he was in AEW, and all the crazy shit he could do. He was a last minute replacement. He was a last minute replacement for Cody Rhodes. And so we were pissed that Cody wasn't going to be there, but my buddy was like, no, I've seen this Darby guy. I think you're going to like him. Like, seriously, I think you'll like him. And I was like, this is bullshit, man. Like, fuck this. Like, so, I'm like going all fucking Karen on the situation. Like, this is bullshit. We paid to see Cody Rhodes. And then you see Darby and you're like, well, you know what? I'm good. Like, you should have told us that Cody wasn't here, but still, that Darby kid is something special.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
I when it comes to Darby Allin, his rise, is something that I don't think anybody expected as to be for him to be as big as he is. I mean, hey, I got the guy's action figure on my armoire here.
Yeah.
He is my favorite AEW. Well, he's one of my favorite AEW wrestlers. At times, I say he's my favorite because of the fact that Darby. But it is really because of his connection with Sting. That's what I started off with. Because people say I'm an old man I'm a young man with an old soul. So like I love a lot of these older wrestlers, and
I relate to
connect.
that.
So like a lot of the older wrestlers, I
Yeah.
love them. So like Steamboat, everybody like, dude, like you weren't even born when Steamboat was wrestling. I'm like, but his entrance was aura, his matches were fantastic. It's the same thing with Sting. I'm like, every era of Sting, you can find something cool about him or his matches, like even stuff with him and Vader. It was just
Jesus Christ, those guys were
like
amazing together.
yes.
Oh man.
I have not seen another match quite like that yet. Just yet. Like
Because Sting was strong enough to pick Vader up and kind of throw him around when he had to, but
and
Vader
you don't
was
see
still
that kind
so
of
much
storytelling anymore either.
No. And the two opponents Vader had in WCW that I just thought were his greatest were Foley and Sting. And if you see the Cactus Jack and Vader stuff, super good.
The Texas Death Match, right? That was good. That was
Like,
good.
I know Foley
Now,
lives
obviously,
watching.
this wasn't the same Texas Death Match that
No,
it happened All In Texas.
no.
That's the greatest. That and the Mark Briscoe and MJF match are the two greatest matches I've ever seen in my life.
They're
in
great
my
matches.
life.
They are great matches. Yes.
I
All In was the best show I'd ever seen at the time.
Yes.
And I think that or Double or Nothing this year are the best shows I've ever seen. Like they were just incredible. Incredible.
Yep. Oh, let me see what. Oh, so Pippin says, see, I do think he's the best. But see, Pippin, the thing about it is, if I say he's the best, it's gonna get clipped for a lot of these TikTokers out here. They're gonna try and clip it and say, "Oh, he's a fan of the Crash Touch Dummy." Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that Crash Touch Dummy.
You know what? You guys should clip it because I want as many people to hear it as possible. I think Darby has literally had one of the greatest title reigns of any title I've ever seen.
One of the best short title runs that I
He
have
defended
seen.
that belt 7 times in 37 days. Also, I'm a little biased because I was in the building the night he beat Max for the belt.
Wait. You were okay. We gotta talk about that. So
Yeah.
you were in the building the night that my favorite wrestler in this current era, my favorite heel in this current era went one-on-one. Now, for those of you guys who do not know, Darby Allin and MJF's paths have been crossing since Limitless Wrestling back in, I believe, 2018. So Stokely was obviously there during those initial matches. PW they had a match in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and it all led up to this one match. Now, this was a decade's worth of storytelling for
kind of
Darby
in
and
one
MJF.
night.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of in one night.
To go from Limitless to PWG to Full Gear 2021, and then to have the Four Pillars 4-Way at Double Up in 2023.
Yep.
And then to
Great
have
match.
Yes. If you have never watched that match, go and watch it. Go and watch it. One of the most underrated MJF matches. Nobody talks about that match.
Nope.
I think it's a crime in multiple states that is not talked about.
Yeah.
And then to have one of the most tear-jerking moments that I've ever experienced in my life
Mhm.
with Darby winning that title.
Mhm.
What was that like being in the building for that?
It was tremendous. So I had gone to Dynasty the weekend before, and I had some hope in my heart that my GOAT, Kenny Omega, was going to take the belt off Max in Canada, and because it was in Vancouver. So me and my buddy drove to Vancouver to go see that show. And it broke my heart when Kenny lost, but, okay. But then there's all this like, hey, Darby's going to use that title shot on Wednesday. And I was like, I already had tickets, and I'm like, wait a minute. So, they say Darby's from Seattle, right? And they say Nick Wayne is from Seattle, but Nick Wayne is actually from Everett, which is like north of Seattle. And that's where this show was happening. I'm like, wait a minute. So Darby trained at the Buddy Wayne Academy, Nick Wayne's dad's school.
Mm-hmm.
And he and like Kevin Knight and all these people that came through that school are going to be wrestling like a few miles from the Buddy Wayne Academy, and Darby's wrestling a world title match. I was like, maybe, just maybe they're going to do something crazy. But when we got there, and I went to the show alone, and so I was sitting next to this really cool guy. And we were both there by ourselves, and we struck up this conversation. But they did this, what do they call those Renee Paquette interviews that they put on YouTube?
Oh, the sideline reporter stuff?
Yeah. So it was Darby sitting down with Renee, and it was before the show started.
The close-up.
Yeah, it's close-up with Renee. And they showed the close-up with Darby, and watching it, I was like, oh shit, he's definitely winning tonight. Like, he's winning for sure. And then the show starts, and they do the thing with MJF, like showing up. He didn't check his phone for like 3 days. He had no idea he was wrestling Darby.
Which I feel like was a shoot. I feel like that was an actual shoot. Because like there's no way, like, because that wasn't acting. I don't think MJF was acting.
Yeah.
In that instant. I literally think that he literally said, I'm not getting on social media this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting on social media.
He is so great at everything he does. And that's an all-time great moment when he comes out and Darby's like, let's go, Max. And then Max is like trying to talk him out of it, and Darby like basically starts crying his eyes out, like saying, no, nobody thought I could do this, and we're doing it tonight. And so you realize this match is happening tonight. It's happening tonight.
And then Brian putting the seal on it made it gold for me. I'm not even gonna hold you, because like seeing Brian get up out that announcer's chair and literally say, "Yeah, you're right." TK said that he agrees with Max that he shouldn't go into this match unprepared. That's why the match is gonna be in the main event. I was like, okay, what is Brian gonna do? Because like when Brian took the microphone, I was like, wow, what are we doing?
Yep. And the where it became just dead obvious. And this is one of those moments in wrestling, and this is what I love about wrestling, is sometimes they can totally tell you who's winning. Like, the whole show was designed to basically say, hey, Darby's going to win the title tonight. You should stick around. You should watch this show. That's the whole show is built around, like, you're going to see Darby win the title if you watch to the end. And when they ran into Sting backstage, and Darby goes, it's showtime. And Sting goes, no, it's not showtime. It's your time. I was like, dude, Sting's a GOAT. Like, everybody shut the fuck up. Sting's the best ever.
I was already crying, and I was sobbing at that point.
I
was sobbing.
I had tears streaming down my cheeks when Darby's music hit. And he walked out. And then at the end of the show, when Sting comes out, and, it was just magical. It really was a magical experience. But the vibes inside that place, it has these old kind of wood bleachers. And and people were stomping on the floors and people were stomping on the bleachers, and you could, I mean, you kind of felt like you were bouncing a little bit, like just with all the excitement happening. And then that match is just a squash. You know, it's just like Max doesn't have a chance. Darby just totally crushes him and beats him with a side headlock. Just like, you know, he finally gets his revenge. And it was just so cool to be able to say I was there, you know?
Wow.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit about pro wrestling forever.
Mhm.
What sparked you doing that podcast?
So, Professor Degree and I have known each other for a couple years. He was one of the first and really loudest fans of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. Like, he was super supportive. We had never like talked in real life before. I didn't know him. But we interacted online a lot, and I always thought he was a super cool guy. And really, really, it meant a lot to me that he was so supportive. And then our mutual friend, Kurt Jangle, did his own streaming show for a while. And Professor Degree was on his show. And I watched it with Brett Michelle, because Brett and I at the time were doing a podcast together called The Hard Way. And
shout out to Brett wherever you may be watching. I know you're gonna watch this.
Absolutely, yeah. And
miss you, fam. Miss you.
Yeah, yeah. And we both were like, we should get him on the show, because like he was really, really good with Kurt. And so we asked him to come on the show, and he came on, and he and I immediately had this like, you know, like fake hate you kind of vibe with each other. And we just goofed off on the same level, you know. So when The Hard Way came to an end, Degree had started being a regular co-host on that show. The three of us were co-hosting it together. And then it became clear that Brett wasn't going to be on the show anymore. And so we decided to end The Hard Way and start a new podcast. And we decided to do Pro Wrestling Forever, which would be different than Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. Like, Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out isn't just an AEW podcast. It is what we talk about most of the time. But AEW, like, Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out's more about what's going on in wrestling right now. And Pro Wrestling Forever is more about the passion of being a pro wrestling fan at any time of any era, right? And kind of how absurd pro wrestling is. Just like, we watch two people beat each other up, except they're not trying to hurt each other. And we cheer for it like it's real. It can infuriate you and drive you to madness when your favorite loses. Still, just like any other sport, it's one of the most absurd things you can possibly think of, really. Like, if you really give it some thought. But that's what's so great about it. And it's like, the attitude of all the things I do are like, pro wrestling is the greatest and dumbest thing in the world, and that's why I love it. It's ridiculous, but that's why I love it. It doesn't take itself too seriously most of the time, you know? And it's like, you know, you see Orange Cassidy, or you see Tony Storm, or you see somebody like that, is like, you need those people just as much as you need Kenny Omega. You need those people just as much as you need Athena. You know, the best, the actual like amazing workers, greatest ever in the ring, are only part of it. You still need people like Orange Cassidy. You still need people like Kyle O'Reilly, just like amazing wrestler and one of the biggest dorks in the world. You know, like they're fantastic for all those reasons. You know, wrestling is everything, and it covers it all, and that's why it's the best.
Yes. So, can we talk a little bit about that first All In back in 2018?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how revolutionary that was. Because to me, I feel like if I could go back in a time machine and Marty McFly myself back to that time, the only thing that angered me about that night is that my servers crashed. Then that night, that All In 2018 came out. And I had to literally, and I had to literally watch it the day after
Mhm.
because like I was not gonna miss my hero Jay Lethal wrestling in Chicago. Like, cause what makes it worse is he was here that
Mhm.
same calendar. He was here in Atlanta the same calendar year,
Mhm.
and I missed him because of the fact that like as a kid I was like I want to go see Jay Lethal, but I was like I don't have a ride. These tickets are back then. Ring of Honor tickets were very cheap,
Mhm.
so like I was like I get a chance to see Cody and Jay Lethal
Mhm.
before he was corporate Cody, but
Yeah, right, right.
and nothing can describe the amount of shock and the amount of all that I was feeling. I was like, so you're telling me that an indie event outside the WWE landscape can put on a diverse palette of matches and say, hey, pro wrestling fans, come over here and pick what you like, and we'll give you that. You
Mhm.
want luchador action? We got that. Penta versus Kenny Omega.
Mhm.
Hangman was in a ladder match. You had Kota Ibushi was on that show. You had Rey Mysterio on that show.
Mhm.
You had so many people.
Mhm.
You had MJF making his big TV debut, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. That was the first time I ever saw him.
Like I didn't know who MJF was
No, me neither.
so I was like, who's this guy?
Mhm.
Never knowing he's gonna be one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But like,
That's the way it goes, isn't it? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
just
And
one
we're not
minute
gonna
you're like, who the hell is this? And then the next minute you're like, they have so much potential. Oh my God, you know?
and then there were other people on this show that I'm not gonna name, but
Mm.
because of certain cases and stuff that they're involved in and the
Yeah.
speaking out movement and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you guy who took a picture with a certain world champion at the time, and it soured some people in the community. But
Mhm.
around here, we don't talk about politics. We're into the wrestling aspect.
Yeah, I
Um,
think when you look back on that and you realize the moment that we were in,
yeah,
as it was like, okay, so like people will talk about the greatness of NXT Black and Gold, right? And it was very good, like
great era,
no
great
question.
era.
But what people don't really think about as much today as I knew the case was back then, and so did a lot of others, is that was designed to crush the indie movement that they knew was happening. And they were taking some of the biggest names in Ring of Honor and in these other places where reputations were growing really big. Kenta obviously had been a legend by that point for a long time. Finn Balor, Owens, Sami Zayn, all these guys that were like drawing good money on the indies. I'm sure they tried to get the Bucks. I'm sure they tried to get Kenny. I'm sure they tried to get Osprey. Osprey's talking about them offering some low ball offer
He got
and to
offered a
be in.
205 Live contract apparently, from what I
Yeah,
heard. From what I heard,
yeah,
like
right. And it kind of makes sense to me only in the respect that Will was a much different wrestler and very young at the time. But you look at what he's become, right? And I'm so glad he never signed that contract, And I remember distinctly watching Wrestle Kingdom, and I don't remember which one it was. It was like in 2015. So one Jim Ross was announcing, and it was the first time I ever saw Shinsuke Nakamura. It was the first time I ever saw Kota Ibushi. It was the first, and they wrestled each other. They had that insanely brutal match together for the Intercontinental title. And I thought Kota was a punk ass. I was like, who the fuck is this little punk ass? And then they have this brutal fucking match. And I loved both of them after that. But this other guy I saw wrestle on that same show was this cool looking dude. He looked really cool, but he was in like a junior match, and it was like a 5-way ladder match or something for the juniors title. It was Kenny. And I was like, that guy's interesting. He's really interesting. Like, he stood out from everybody, just his look, just everything. That next year, Nakamura leaves. They got to fill his spot, and they fill it with Kenny. And Kenny becomes the new leader of the Bullet Club. Kenny wrestles Okada in 17. And the reverberations about Omega and Okada are everywhere. People are like, is this the greatest match of all time? You know, and I will say my very favorite match of all time is a Kenny Omega and Okada match, but it was a later one. The hour and 15-minute 2 out of 3 falls match is my all-time favorite match, where Kenny wins the title. But
Nice choice.
yeah, it's a masterpiece. But yeah, that's what was going on, is like Japanese wrestling was getting, you know, Bullet Club stuff was in Hot Topic. You know, I went to Hot Topic to buy a Young Bucks t-shirt with Chris Jericho. You know, it was such a weird thing because WWE had just dominated everything for so long.
Mhm.
And, you know, when Ring of Honor did the Madison Square Garden show, those tickets sold out because people thought the Elite were going to be there. And AEW started, you know, they were signed with AEW instead of Ring of Honor by that time. It was still a great event, but like, you know, I mean, it was one of your only chances to see the Elite in the States. Like, that didn't just happen. And especially Kenny. Kenny didn't wrestle in the States very often for a few years there. So when AEW started, I mean, it was like, holy shit. Like, we all felt like we were a part of it, you know? And I think that's what bred the loyalty in the AEW audience, was like, we felt like we were part of starting AEW too, in a way, you know?
Yeah. Just to think about, like, all of this started because of a tweet.
Yeah.
Tweet that Meltzer put out that no other gate could surpass one of WWE's gates, and Cody said, "I'll take the bet."
Yep.
And here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. And that stuff just feels routine now, you know, is AEW for a pay-per-view. Yeah, they're going to draw more than 10,000. Like, a lot of times, you know, and like, they've done it a bunch of times. They're drawing 45,000 in the UK this weekend, you know? Like, that was unthinkable 10 years ago. I mean, think about where we were 10 years ago. Roman Reigns in the Shield gear as the babyface nobody wanted. Wrestling The Undertaker in the main event of WrestleMania.
Old and beaten up Undertaker at that.
Yeah, he just couldn't move anymore. You know, he couldn't move the same. And he couldn't carry Roman through the match. It was just awful. And, you know, Roman's getting booed out of... There's people turning their backs on the main events of WrestleManias because they don't want Roman, you know? That's where we were 10 years ago in mainstream American wrestling, you know? Now look at where we are. We have Jay White, Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, Swerve, Hangman, Bandito, Brody King. They're all in one promotion together, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, you know?
And I feel like AEW has one of the most unique and diverse rosters.
Yeah.
In
Absolutely.
wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
The only other one that I can say that has one of the more unique rosters is maybe NXT.
Yeah.
And that's only because of the fact that NXT has Zilla, Kendall Gray, Kalani Jordan, Kelly Armstrong, Jada Parker, so many others. But the diversity of styles in AEW, what would you consider your favorite? Even though, yes, obviously we would say we love everything about the wrestling styles in AEW, but like, when you look at somebody's matches, whose person is the one match that, okay, I gotta get my water before this, I gotta get my snack before this match. Whose
Mhm.
match? That match you try to set the table for?
There's a style that I call the Superman style that only a few people can even do. And it's like Osprey, Kenny, Coda were the people who could do that kind of, just the athleticism required is so insane. The Bucks do it in their own way, but like
Mhm.
they're not as powerful as these guys are. So that would be my number one, just because it's so rare and you don't. So if Kenny's in a match, like I'm not doing anything else. Like, but the next one down would be Jay White. I love watching Jay White wrestle because everything he does is logical and it makes sense. And he baits people in to making mistakes. Like Switchblade isn't just a phrase or a character. He wrestles like Switchblade. And I'm stealing this from Blairyline in our chat, but he wrestles like Switchblade. It's a whole persona. Like he everything about Jay White is part of Switchblade. And I love that. And I just think he's like one of the most interesting wrestlers I've ever seen. In the ring, on the mic, anywhere. He's so good. And I hope for big things for him. Please stay healthy.
So, Jay White, I'm gonna go ahead and ask this question. So Jay White, his career in AEW
Mhm.
has been full of highs
Mhm.
and some very low lows.
Yeah.
Very recently, he lost in the opening round, well, in the quarterfinal round rather, of the Continental Challenge Cup against John Moxley.
Mhm.
Now, you guys know that my reaction wasn't all that great on if you watch this channel. I was not all that happy about Jay White losing.
Mhm.
I think that a guy who comes back from an injury should at least be rewarded by at least getting a win over somebody as formidable as Mox.
Mhm.
Now I love John Moxley. Love him to pieces. Love
Mhm.
Marina. Love Wheeler. Love Collio. I do think that Jay could have gotten the win there.
Mhm.
But a lot of my friends, they were saying, well, this could work because it can make Jay look strong.
Mhm.
And I think it also could work because I think there's a clear bang bang game there for us you coming.
Right.
But what was your perspective of that one match?
Couple things. I have said this on my shows. I love John Moxley. He is one of the all-time greats. And that said, I think he's very overexposed right now, and I'm kind of bored of him. Like, he's not the guy I look forward to seeing at this point because I see him every week all the time. And it's not anything he's done. It's just I've seen enough for now. Like, give him a couple weeks off or something. But I thought that match was going to be the final. Like, I'm like, oh, that's a great match for Wembley. Even if Jay loses, that's a great match for Wembley, right? And when they announced it for the Dynamite, I was like, I'm going to be hopeful that Jay can win this, but here's what I think is going to happen. And it was exactly what they did. Like, Jay almost beats Mox a bunch of times, kicks out of everything, and then ends up passing out in the submission. And come on. We've done this with Jay enough, I would say Jay in AEW, he is one of the more frustrating people in my love of AEW. Jay is one of the people that is like, God damn it. Do you know you have Jay White in your company? Like, Jay White's in your company. You should, can we do more with Jay? Because I do know he's been injured a lot, like in his run. And that's just unfortunate, right?
And also, I've heard that he may be having there's a baby on the way as well. So
well, yeah, there is a baby on the way. So that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to take 3 months off, 4 months off like Hangman does, but he could, So obviously, you're not going to probably put the world title on him right now. I know Tony Khan's a big fan of his. I know there was a big rumor that he was going to sign with WWE at the time that he signed with AEW, and basically the only reason that didn't happen was because WWE had a hiring freeze at the time. So I'm glad that Tony shelled out the money for him, but Jay White, man, that is a main event guy. And Jay's still pretty young. So, I mean, like, that's a multi-time world champion to me. And I would have loved it if he beat Mox, but I at least would have liked it a lot better if they had wrestled in the finals instead of wrestling in, you know, you didn't have to book it that way, and they chose to. And now I feel like they're going towards Mox and Nigel, and I'm kind of just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, that I just it frustrates me because most of his career I did not get to see much of in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard all these great things about this guy named Jay White, I was like, okay, this guy's this great.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you treating him as if he's that guy?
Yeah.
It's kind of sort of the same thing that I have with Ace Austin, who's also in the Bang Bang Gang.
Yeah.
I have a slight problem with how he's treated sometimes because of the way, because he's one of those guys. I'm like, he's around my age group,
Mm-hmm.
and he has not been given the opportunities that I would like to. Like, even though, yeah, he's been given some good matches,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but I'd like to see him doing more than just being on Ring of Honor and getting these title opportunities without the obvious thing of like, without like the obvious thing of like, oh, he's gonna lose this.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see him actually win a title.
I think he's in a position that was really similar to Swerve, actually. Like, before Swerve went on his big run, was Swerve always had great matches. He always was like, from an in-ring and kind of aura perspective, like, he jumped right off the screen. He was so good. But when he'd be in a big match, he always lost. And that was really frustrating. And that kind of went on for about a year with him. And it just hit a year since Ace Austin made his debut in AEW. I'm like, we need to get Ace Austin some wins because this guy is too good. I've never even seen Ace Austin just have a good match. His matches are always great. Always.
Yeah. Give me one moment. Give me one moment, guys. Give me one moment.
No problem.
Yes. No, ma'am. All right.
Handling business.
All right, my bad.
No problem.
All right. My bad, boy. Daily, you can go finish your thought.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, like, I don't even think Ace has had like just regular good matches. I think every match he's been in has been great. And you've got to reward guys like that with wins. You know, I'm having the same thing with Bandito right now, where it's like he's booked in these matches with people that he's not going to win. And so why is he the ROH champion if he's losing every time he's on pay-per-view? You know, like, like just have him drop the ROH belt and have him just focus on AEW, you know? So, you know, as great as AEW is, we're always going to have our people that we think should be getting more, you know?
Yes. Bandito was my wrestler of the year last year. And
absolutely. Yeah.
And because the fact that I followed this man everywhere he went, if he went to CMLO, I caught it. If I couldn't caught his complete match, I at least caught the clips.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I resubscribed to Ring of Honor for the first time in a decade because of Bandito.
Yep.
And to see his, how I put this, the the way they've been kind of treating them,
Mhm.
and like I don't really like the way they've been doing it.
Mm-mm.
However, I do think that there are ways they can change.
Oh,
Because
big time. Yeah.
yeah, they can change. And before anybody comes over here and says, "Oh, you guys hate AEW," I'm like, we're the two most AEW guys on this
Yeah, they're
YouTube
no, that's
platforms.
silly. Like that's
We're the two most pro AEW guys on the platform.
yeah, no,
I can
that's
promise you that. Like
no, you can always pick and
we're we're
look,
not
anybody
we're not
anybody
Meltzer.
no,
We're not Alvarez. Obviously,
right.
Alvarez be just saying
Yeah.
stuff just to say stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I think he likes the organic traffic that that his comments generate. But yeah, I really do think that Bandito can do more. I think the fact that Tony feels like he can hold his own in a pay-per-view match with John Moxley is a vote of confidence, even if he lost. And I think that the match he had with El Idolo at Revolution was fantastic. The match he had with Swerve was fantastic. I just want more for him. So at this point with Bandito, whereas Ace Austin, I just want him to get a few bigger wins,
Yes, yes.
with Bandito, it's like Bandito's like this close to being like main eventer, like he's
Yeah.
so close.
After the way that MJF kind of gave him the rub, I was like, oh, they're
Yeah.
doing something big next year.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I do feel there's a big push coming. I
Yeah.
just wanted to feel realistic when it does happen, because people are going to be like, well, why is he getting all these opportunities if he hasn't won anything?
Right.
And and that's the thing that I'm most afraid of, is like not so much me not believing in him, it's the rest of the IWC already who already has a set vision of what a world champion should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know how the IWC runs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and I
So-
remember MJF when he won that match, he said, "You're going to be a world champion in AEW." Like, and then he attacked him, because he's like, and with that said, I need to take care of some business. He started whooping his ass because he's like, MJF's the champion. He doesn't want to have this guy nipping at his heels. But you don't say stuff like that when you don't have to about a guy like Bandito if you don't mean it. And I know Tony had that said very intentionally. So I can tell TK is a huge Bandito guy. Like,
Yes.
I think a lot of the push that people kind of expected maybe to go to Brody has actually gone to Bandito. So, and I think that's the right call. But like, yeah, like Brody's awesome, but Bandito's the man. Like Bandito's the fucking man.
Yeah, because I love Brody, and we gotta
Mhm.
talk a little bit about him before we get up off of here. Because I know
Yeah.
you and I have a Dynamite to watch.
Yes, we
And
do. Yes, we do.
So, but let's talk a little bit about Brody King.
Mhm.
So his performance against MJF at Grand Slam Australia,
Mhm.
and many other matches that he's had, his matches with Darby for the AEW title as well. I think those were really, really good matches.
Mhm.
And what I'm hoping is that sometime the next year or so, that they have something really, really big planned for Brody. Like, what do you think? His trajectory really looks like post House of Black, post
Mhm.
Aleister Black leaving, post
Mhm.
all this different stuff. What's that really look like?
I think for Brody, as far as like world titles and stuff, I'm not sure if I see that for him.
Mhm.
But that's not a diss either. That's like he just doesn't need it, and
Yeah, he can always have the mid card titles and do well.
Yeah.
With that. Like,
I can see him as an international champion or a TNT champion or something along those lines. I've loved Brodito. Is like they're like climbing my list of like all-time favorite tag teams. Like I love those guys. The way they work together is incredible. Like that's just like wrestling divinity, is when two guys you don't ever expect to be paired together get paired together and they're that good. And I remember when they beat FTR at the finals of that title tournament. I was like, "What? Brodito won? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah,
You
that's
know, like
that's one of my favorite matches. Like,
so
uh,
good, so good. And then then every title defense was incredible. Every when they lost, you know, when like Bandito finally goes down and he flips off FTR and then he takes the finish and it's over. Like that was expert, just so good. And so with Brody, I think Brody's one of those guys. He's a perpetual fan favorite. I wouldn't change any. I wouldn't try to work against that. I would like to see him in some proper feuds where he has a personal issue with somebody and he's not just Bandito's buddy. I think that's the only thing that on screen right now is he comes across as just Bandito's big brother sometimes, you know, and
yes.
he's more than that. So I would like to see that. I'm curious what happens when Buddy Matthews comes back.
Yeah, I got a feeling there might be a feud between the two of them.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Buddy's gonna be too fond of like, oh, she left me for a luchador and
Mhm.
for a guy who you
Mhm.
won tag gold with,
Yep.
and we won a trios gold together. And that
Mhm.
was enough for you. Like,
Mhm.
I can kind of see him having a slight bit of a problem with that.
Yeah.
But before we get up out here, let's talk a little bit about All In this
Mhm.
year. Now, the talk around All In has been very polarizing, to say the least.
Yep.
And a lot of people have been saying that it hasn't been the best build. There are people who have been saying that, you know, maybe they should have you know, had MJF versus Will, or, you know, certain title picks, certain things in certain title pictures shouldn't be happening.
Mhm.
I'm gonna just ask you this: what is your perspective on the build for All In? Number one, and then what will be your predictions for All In this year and what's going to happen? I see a lot of big things happening outside. Post All In, I think there's going to be some of the bigger stuff than what we're getting during the
I
All In season.
yeah. I think introducing Redemption as a pay-per-view in the middle of what should have been just a build to All In and what traditionally would have been
Mhm,
threw their timing off a little bit with certain things. I think that's maybe
mhm,
they had to build to that pay-per-view instead of directly to All In, and I think maybe that's some of the issues that people have. Because, you know, is Kenny still going to be the champion after Redemption? So they couldn't really start building to Will versus Kenny properly until after that match. However, in my opinion, the build's been great between those two. I pretty much expected those two to face each other since right after Dynasty when they cut that promo right afterwards, and Will told him not to give up on the world title, you know. And then when Will won at Forbidden Door, they did another one of those promos, and I loved it because I thought this is the main event that we're going to build to. And so that match is going to be insanely good. Like people are going to freak the fuck out over that match because it's Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. You don't get two people of that caliber in the ring together very often, you know, in a main event of the biggest show of the year. And Will and Kenny are both those guys who rise to the occasion. They don't wilt under the pressure. So I think they're going to have an all-timer. I think Will win. It would be insane. Any other outcome would be insane, probably. I don't think Kenny needed a long title reign. I just think, I think that you just do the best possible match you can. Kenny's had a fun title reign, and Will's going to take the belt. You know, but I don't have any problem with that build. The people who say I've seen people say like the better story was with MJF and Will, and I'm like, what story? Like there isn't a story with MJF and Will. Plus they wrestled in Wembley at All In 2 or 3 years ago. Like
And I will say this: like, I made a video about Pro Wrestling's greatest hero versus Pro Wrestling's greatest villain, and I talked about how MJF and Will could be that kind of a story.
Yeah.
And it's only because of the fact that like there was a story with them at the All In like 2 years prior that I believe still had some sea legs, but I think that there could have been more building to that. You know?
Yeah.
And
If you were going to do that, you would need to build it a lot more than Will and Kenny, who have these years of rivalry between the two of them. But I will say this: I think Will and Kenny have cut the best promos of their careers during this build. This is the coolest. This is the best promos I've ever seen from Kenny Omega by far. He's been incredible.
The backstage interview from last week, great, fantastic, fantastic. I've never seen Kenny Omega in like other than the one promo that he cut before that one, like where I was kind of like, this doesn't sound like you, Kenny. This sounds like you're auditioning for a anime film or something. Like, and then like he picked it right back up on last week. So I was like, I really enjoyed that. So I'm very, very excited to see what's gonna happen for All In. But what are your predictions going into All In?
I'm interested because I think obviously we're going to, Creed and Kofi are going to show up with Swerve.
They're making it so obvious.
They want you to think that, they want you to know that ahead of time. I would be shocked if we didn't see Kyrie show up at this show as well. I could see Tekla just having a big segment in the ring or backstage or something and getting interrupted by Kyrie. She's talked all this shit about Stardom. Kyrie used to be the face of Stardom. It makes perfect sense. I could see that happening. I would have predicted that the Bucks would beat Cope and Christian, and I still think they probably will. But now, because I think Kenny and the Bucks are going to end up as a trio in this big trios division that's just shown up out of nowhere, so that they can fight Swerve and Kofi and Creed, to pay that off after all these years. If the Bucks have the tag titles, does that make sense? So I don't know, but I think Takeshita will probably win the international title in the triple threat. I think it's the Okada and Fletcher are going to end up kicking each other's ass and getting carried away and distracted, and Takeshita will pick somebody off and win the title back. Those are my general predictions, basically. Yeah, okay. I think Brawling Birds will also defeat Divine Dominion.
And then you got Kenny beating, Ospreay beating Kenny, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only that, a good friend of mine, Calvin, predicted Ospreay kicking out of the one-winged angel.
I can see that happening.
Dude, it makes perfect sense when you think about it, right? It's like,
especially with the one through the table that he did last week. I said that might be some breadcrumbs right there.
Oh yeah, no, totally. No, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. I mean, it's really like, I'm very looking forward to Mercedes and Willow. I think that one's a toss-up as to who wins.
I think Willow retains.
I think Willow retains. If I was to lean in one way or the other, I think it's Willow. I don't think Mercedes has been humbled enough to take the title yet. There's a bigger story they're trying to tell with her.
So I'm not the only one that feels that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in my personal perspective, I don't think this whole crash out for Mercedes is done yet. So,
yeah,
I'm not certain that is, because I got a feeling that, and this might be a long shot. So, for all the shut down markout viewers that are watching this and saying who's this guy saying this, I got a feeling that Britt Baker might make an appearance. I
You know,
I got a strong feeling.
she
I'm just saying,
responded. She
yeah.
responded to that tweet and said she wants to be there.
And see, last year when Thunder Rosa challenged her to that hair versus hair match last
Mhm.
year,
Mhm.
I was like, so what's gonna happen here?
Yeah.
And then she didn't respond back.
Mhm.
But when a fan says, I wish you were at All In,
Mhm.
he says same here,
Mhm.
that gives me kind of a sneaky suspicion
Mhm.
that she might very well be in the building for that.
Well, and that Rebel Heart show is just
And
like
yeah,
10
in
days after
Athens,
All
Georgia,
In.
yes.
Yeah, so
And she's been in the talks for that. I
she's
don't
got
live
to
very
she's
far
got to
from
be there.
Athens, so a
Yeah.
lot of people who I know are like, "Are you gonna go?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna go, but I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna just
Mhm.
because if Britt comes back, I want to be able to sit here and scream my head off if that shit
Yep.
happened."
Yep. Britt's a legend. Britt's a legend. I mean, straight up, like, I don't think, she's not the caliber of wrestler of most of the division now, but the pandemic era, Britt Baker was one of the MVPs of the company, period.
Her and
Her
Sheeta
and
both like
yeah,
Sheeta, and I hate the conversation around her now of like, oh, she just watched. I'm like, y'all didn't watch the pandemic era of her.
no,
Like
no, I don't think Sheeta's washed either. I think that she's trying to figure out how to be this new character that she's kind of figured out for herself.
yeah. And plus, like, I told people, I'm like, when you go to Japan and film movies
Mhm.
multiple times a week,
Mhm.
and you come back after
Mhm.
2 years of not wrestling on
Yeah.
American soil, and
Yeah.
y'all think it's just automatically going to be just an easy thing. No,
Right.
like she's working very, very hard. I think that she's doing the best she can.
She's done the best character work of her entire career this year.
Yeah.
So I think she's been trying to figure out how to change her in-ring style to match the character. And I think she's still getting there a little bit, but I've seen her have some good matches and a few matches that I was like, that wasn't the best I've ever seen she to have, but that's okay. Like, whatever. I mean, that happens. But yeah, I think Britt and Rebel were such a huge part of that first 2 years of AEW. They were so critical and so funny. Oh my God,
Mhm.
I
They were
could point.
they were just bullies together, and I loved it.
Yes, yes. And Rebel was such a great putz like foil for Britt, I mean, at one point her actual name was Reba, not Rebel. Like it was just fun. It was really, really funny stuff.
Yeah, it was. Rebel to me, like, and see, I didn't remember much about her, but
Mhm.
I did remember Jamie being with them, and I remember Jamie Hayter. I remember Britt Baker, but like when people were saying, "Oh, Rebel has ALS," I was like, "Where?" I'm like, I remember her, but like, I knew her face,
Mhm.
but like it wasn't computing in my brain of like, how do I not remember her? And then I went back and watched like some old clips. I'm like, I saw her before, I just didn't know who she was.
Mhm.
And prayers up to her and her
Yeah.
family. I just did the ice bucket challenge because one of the buddies asked me to like do the ice bucket challenge for Rebel. So
Good for you,
whenever,
man. That's awesome.
yeah. So shout out to my man Aaron loves wrestling.
Oh
He said,
yeah.
he said, brother, need you to do this with me. I said, I got you. Cause
Mhm.
he's one of the few brothers in the faith that I have on this platform that we talk about wrestling, and it's in a relatively family friendly way. And
Yeah, yeah.
like we're the only two Christian
Mhm.
guys that are doing wrestling content that are like, people be like, you guys do wrestling content? And it's so explicit. The wrestling is so explicit. I'm like, guys, like we're trying to promote these different companies, and we
Mhm.
don't really we're just promoting the companies.
Mhm.
We're just the guys trying to put our own spin on it. Like
Sure. Sure.
so like it's been a different trajectory with that. And then but with Rebels, obvious diagnosis and seeing the community coming together like that, it's been crazy. It's been really
Crazy.
it was crazy, but also heartwarming.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen a locker room be so, how I put this, loving towards one person
Yeah.
than I have seen them be like sensitive towards just one such a Rebel. Like
Yeah.
you got Tommy Invincible calling out MJF for an ice bucket challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big this has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with this Rebel Heart show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna be a pretty cool month. Next couple months for AEW, I believe, because
Yeah.
I don't even think the fun has even begun yet.
That's
Like,
kind of where I'm at too. I almost feel
yeah,
like All In's laying the groundwork for like a lot of
yeah,
shifting. And I think the period leading out of All In is going to be really fascinating because I think there's a lot of layers of story you can tell with what they're putting together. And then, are we seeing the last run of Kenny Omega on top? Or the rumors are out that the Bucks might be working under their last contract. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. I mean, the style they wrestle is crazy. You can't do that forever, And I don't blame them for wanting to be able to walk while their kids are, while they have kids and a family to take care of.
that's when they're smaller too. That their kids are like much smaller than.
Yeah. Well, and they've already they have enough money, and they'll make money for the rest of their lives just on what they've already done. So like, I could see the Bucks and Kenny walking off into the sunset together.
Yes.
It kind of feels like this might be us saying goodbye to Kenny as like a world champion main eventer. And so I hope that's what it feels like at the end,
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Okay. And before we get off of here, talk a little bit about your love for Kenny Omega, and then I'm gonna ask them where to find you and everything else.
Yeah. Kenny Omega is his wrestling, his expressions, his movements. He is the most dynamic wrestler I have ever seen, where he can keep accelerating, and keep accelerating. And just when you think a match has hit top speed, he goes a little faster, and he can't quite do it the same way anymore, but it's like even Kenny at like 85% is better than almost anybody else. You know what I mean? So like, I think there's something about Kenny that's not appreciated enough is what a great storyteller he is. And he's very subtle. And so a lot of people don't get the subtleties, but it's some of the most layered storytelling you'll ever fucking see. And, people have their favorites or whatever, but for my money, all the people who hated on Kenny the last 10 years are going to pretend that they were huge fans 10 years from now, because he's going to be universally regarded as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And
that belt collector era was just generational.
Yeah. Yeah.
For somebody like
I
me
loved
who
it.
did not, for somebody like myself who did not know much about Kenny until he came to the States, it was cool to see somebody who it seemed as if everybody revered this guy.
Yeah.
Everybody reveres Kenny Omega as one of the greatest of all time. And it felt like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a guy who was a living legend. That is, quite frankly, to me, he's the Lance Storm of our generation. He's the Lance Storm, the Chris Jericho, different people of our generation, like of guys who you don't even realize what we're watching. Like Lance Storm having the belt collector era that he had, Chris Jericho like being a legend in multiple promotions. And to have that roll up into one, getting Kenny Omega.
Yep.
It's amazing to see that. And I think that whenever he announces his retirement, or that explicitly or implicitly, that it's going to be emotional night for everyone. So,
Oh, I'm gonna cry like a baby for sure. Like, I am not ready to let go of Kenny Omega, and
he'll more than likely be a backstage producer. Sorry about that, Books and Body Slams. I already know you're going to watch this. I know you're going to watch this on the replay. I know you're going to watch this on the replay. Somebody's going to send this to you. And I know you're going to be like, why wasn't I involved in this conversation?
yeah.
I already know. I can feel it in my bones. I'm gonna get a DM from somebody that said, "Oh, Books saw the broadcast."
Books gets upset that she misses out on private conversations that aren't even on the internet about Kenny Omega. So, I mean, Books gets mad that I talked to my best friend on my couch about Kenny Omega. So Books, it's okay. We didn't mean to exclude you. We'll bring you back. We'll bring you on next time. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Blade Daily, tell them where to find you and tell them all about your different social platforms that you are that they can find you on. They can engage with you.
Yeah, so I host Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, and you can find that show. Our username is Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out on Instagram, on Threads. That's primarily where we are. We're also on Blue Sky, and our username there is Sud Sumo Pod because Blue Sky has really dumb usernames. And then please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to stay the most up to date. It's the easiest way to find us. We are live every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So that's a great place. We'd love it when people are in the chat, feeding us. And we read a lot of comments on the air. And then my other podcast, Pro Wrestling Forever, our handle is Pro Wrestling Forever Pod, kind of everywhere on all those same platforms. But the home of those two podcasts was called Sickos Club, and it's now going to be called Jobber Underground, and it's launching next week. So hopefully you guys will go to jobberunderground.com, go follow us on Instagram and Threads at Jobber Underground, and you'll be a part of the big announcements next week. We're going to have new merch. We're going to have new, merch for the shows, merch for all kinds of stuff. And we'll have a sale running. So it'd be a great time if you wanted to jump on board.
And could you send me the link to that as well, so I can put it in the
heck yeah,
show notes.
Heck yeah.
Make sure you guys get your merch sales and everything.
Yeah, heck yeah, dude. Yeah, I'll DM it to you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. But as always, guys, continue to plug into the Power Surge each and every week. Keep on walking into the indie spotlight each and every week. As you saw, I had my main man Blade Daily from Sit Down, Shut Up, and Mark Out here. Tomorrow, I will be having the IWA Intensity Division champion, Brian Matthews. He'll be sounding off on any and everything going on in the IWA right now. We also have some big things coming. I cannot wait to share those things with you guys because I'm keeping them under the vest until they are made into confirmations. But I will see you guys later. I want to thank Legacy Maker Sports Network for being a sponsor of the podcast. Thank you to Pop Mania. Thank you to my brother Eric Knight, who was our producer. And I will see you guys next time. Peace. All right. Thank you so